We all know that a certain dragon writing book gets an awful lot of attention. Over the last year, I've been reading more dragon books, trying to compare them to Fourth Wing and determine where I think dragon books work and where they don't. Where they don't is typically in Fourth Wing. And in today's episode of Dragons versus Fourth Wing, or Dragon Books versus Fourth Wing, whatever we're calling this series, we are talking about So Let Them Burn by Camilla Cole. Hi, my name's Rachel, and today I'm trying to convince you to read this dragon writing book instead of this one. Red Tower has somehow done a very successful job at marketing Fourth Wing, and somehow that series has a massive audience, which includes, I kid you not, my 70-year-old aunt and uncle. Imagine my shock when I'm sitting at Easter dinner at my mother's house, and my aunt starts telling me that she found a book series that she loved. She just finished the third book that just came out, she said. And I said, oh God, don't say it. She said, have you heard of Rebecca Yarros and her series, The Fourth Wing? And I said, oh, I may have heard of it. And then turned to my sister and said, girl, I hate that book. I hate it so fucking much. I don't know how it ended up on the radar of this many people, including, again, my 70-year-old aunt, who up to this point reads almost exclusively just James Patterson books on audio. I kid you not, my 70-year-old aunt and uncle were taking drives in their car just so that they could get back in the car and listen to Fourth Wing. The idea of my aunt and uncle listening to the spicy scenes in their car makes me want to die inside a little bit. The point is, somehow that series got so successfully marketed in a way that other series do not. Successfully marketing a book is something that can be very difficult. One thing that can help you is today's video sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace can help you make a website that helps you stand out in the sea that is the internet, including the sea of dragon books. Squarespace is an all-in-one website building platform that makes it so easy for you to have a professional looking website of your own for you to curate your space and talk to your audience or sell whatever goods and services you provide. So whether you're an author marketing their books, or maybe you're an editor selling editorial services, or maybe you're a crochet nerd and you make crochet patterns for different fantasy series, Squarespace is a great place for you to set up a website, showcase your services and goods, market your skills, or just talk to your audience like I do. I'm really happy with my website. It's readswithrachel.com. It has all of the different places you can find me, info about my book club, join my book club Discord. People ask often, are you still taking on beta reads? I have answers to frequently asked questions there on my website. And Squarespace made this so easy because they have templates. So I don't know anything about building a website, but they have templates that makes it so easy for me to just customize according to my preferences. So whatever it is that you do, whether you are marketing yourself or your book, whether you're an editor, reviewer, author, or a crochet nerd, Squarespace can help you customize a website, build it to your preferences. And even if you're not familiar with something like e-commerce, Squarespace has great e-commerce tools and a custom merch service that you can utilize without having to worry about shipping and production. Whatever your business is or whatever your online presence is, Squarespace can help you organize it, market it, find your audience, get your sales with a beautiful website of your own. For a free trial, go to squarespace.com, and when you are ready to launch, you can use the QR code on the screen or go to squarespace.com/readswithrachel for 10% off your first domain or website. That's squarespace.com/readswithrachel. The link is down below. And thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So Let Them Burn is the first in a duology, and the second book is out. So if you're interested, you have the ability to read both books right now. I did read this on audio, and I think that the narrators did a really good job. So if you are an audio reader, this is a good choice for you. This is the first in a duology which was pitched as Jamaican Joan of Arc. It was the author's debut book, and it's a very solid debut. Yes, by the way, this was one of the books targeted by Kate Corain on their burner account, and yet again, this is one of those times where I'm like, well, as a person who's read Kate Corain's book and a person who has read some of the books that Kate Corain targeted on a burner account, the books that were targeted consistently turn out to be better than Kate Corain's book, which begs the question, if you had time to make all those burners, why didn't you just have time to make a better book? Anyways, now that I've been sassy, I think this is a really solid dragon book for those of you looking for your dragon riding fix, but one that feels more of like, specifically with regards to the dragons from like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon type approach, not exactly a one-to-one comparison here. It's just, I feel like in Fourth Wing, we get so much lore about the dragons that ends up being conflicting. Those dragons talk too much, and yet when it comes time to answer questions, they talk too little. The dragon dragons in So Let Them Burn do talk to their dragon rider and to each other. In So Let Them Burn, I feel like this makes much more sense than was done in Fourth Wing. It's a big complaint I have about Fourth Wing, how if all of these paths of communication are open, then why are they not being utilized? It honestly leaves itself open to a lot of plot holes. Now, I do think there was one point where this book fell into that trap, but consistently less than Fourth Wing did. But this is more human focused than dragon focused in a way that, again, I think Fourth Wing should have been, because then it would have made more sense. I'm going to approach reviewing this in a non-spoilery way so that I can try to convince you to read it. And I'm going to break this down using the 4 C's, which is a storytelling framework proposed by Daniel Jose Older, who's the author of Dactyl Hill and Shadow Shaper, which, by the way, was challenged by Bruce Friedman in Clay County, Florida for a ban. If you think I won't talk about book banning at any given opportunity, you're wrong. I will always throw shade at those fucking people. So Daniel proposes the 4 C's of storytelling, and this is something that he recommends that authors use as an approach to help frame plot out their story and write it. I personally use it to review books, which is something I recommend doing if you don't know how you want to approach a book review. Get a framework, and this is a really good framework. So the 4 C's are characters, conflict, context, and craft. And I'm going to go through the 4 C's using this story. Daniel Jose Older says that in regards to characters, you don't necessarily need to make your characters likable to make a good story. You just need, 1, to make them have humanity, to make them feel like real humans. And number 2, you need to make your audience care about them. Now, for better or for worse, you need to make them give a shit, right? Because the worst thing you can do is write a story where you're just like, I really don't care if this character dies right now. In a good way, in a bad way, I'm completely removed from this story entirely. Nothing could make me feel anything. Not a sense of justice, not a sense of loss, nothing. Now, this is a book where the story has characters, our main characters are likable. What a treat. Can't say that about Xaden and Violet, I tell you what. This is an instance where it's very smart to do dual POV, although, and this has been complained about, I saw the synopsis on Goodreads, it doesn't it doesn't sound like it's dual POV. Let me actually read it to you and you'll see what I'm talking about. I would read you off my copy, but I actually just on a few days ago, I donated my copy of this book to the local high school because I ended up reading it on audiobook, and I didn't annotate it like I had planned to, and it was a brand new copy, and I'm like, well, if I'm just going to read this on audio, then I should give this to an actual, I should get this in the hands of an actual teenager who it was written for. So, although that won't stop book banners from challenging this one, just like they fucking challenged Shadow Shaper. It does have the F word in it, and book banners are opposed to swear words, even though teenagers literally swear. God forbid we depict teens as they are. All right, so here's the synopsis, and tell me if you think that this sounds like it's a dual POV book. Farron Vincent can channel the power of the gods. 5 years ago, she used her divine magic to liberate her island from its enemies, the dragon-riding Langley Empire. But now at 17, Farron is all powered up with no wars to fight. She's a legend to her people and a nuisance to her neighbors. When she's forced to attend an international peace summit, Farron expects that she will perform tricks like a trained pet and then go home. She doesn't expect her older sister Alara forming an unprecedented bond with an enemy dragon, or the gods claiming the only way to break that bond is to kill her sister. As Farron's desperation to find another solution takes her down a dark path, and Alara, the sister, discovers the shocking secrets at the heart of the Langley Empire, both must make difficult choices that will shape each other's lives as well as the fate of their world. So as you can see, this sounds like it's just Farron's POV, but it's not. It's equally divided between the two of them. So our 2 main characters are our 2 POVs. They are the sisters Farron and Alara Vincent. Farron is the younger sister. She can channel the power of the gods because she became the child Empyrean when she was 12 years old and helped them win the war. She took on the power of the gods. She communes with them. She talks to them. And these are the gods that are specific to the country that she lives in, the island that she lives in. And she became this island's sort of liberator along with this queen that actually this book is very queer normative, where previously there were 2 queens of this island and they had a daughter who they put into hiding, and then that daughter was raised in secret, not knowing she was the future queen. And then Alara at 12 during this war says, hey, you're the queen, you're coming with us. But this all happens off page. We learn about it after the fact. And there's a lot of contention between Farron, who's this child Empyrean, this person who took on everything as a child and helped them win the war, and this queen who's a little bit older than her, who was like, I never wanted to be queen. You showed up on my doorstep. You said I'm the queen, and then I had to walk into this. And now you resent me for having to tell you what to do because I'm the queen, but this is where you put me. And Farron's like, well, I was a kid. So really interesting dynamics. And so together they all won this war against the Empire of Langley, and the island is free now. Now that there's no war, Farron, still the child Empyrean, still having all of this power, feels very stuck until something happens regarding her sister. Her sister bonds with an enemy dragon and is in danger because of this. Farron's motivation is one of trying to do the right thing, or what she thinks is the right thing. This is how she became the child Empyrean in the first place. But this is often in conflict with what everybody else thinks is the right move and what the best course of action is. But Farron is always about saving her sister. Farron is not as level-headed as her sister. She's more of a shoot first, ask questions later kind of gal. Alara is the older sister, and she is more level-headed. She's not jealous of her sister being this very important child Empyrean who helped them win the war, this important political and military figure, but she does struggle to find her place in the world. She sees her younger sister being so important and feeling like she sort of lives in the shadow, just wanting to find like a place where she can do good. She's just a really kind, good person. But again, this is not in any way that like makes Alara seem like a jealous person. She's just struggling to find where she fits, where she can do the most good with the tools at her disposal. She wants to join a particular part of the military, but she's not accepted. She does have some power because she can commune with her ancestors, not the gods, but her ancestors. And this makes her feel like she is doing something, like she has value. So then during this peace summit between Langley, the empire who used to be in charge of them, and their island, she comes in contact with a dragon, and dragons are not supposed to be there, but the dragon showed up nonetheless. And she meets this dragon and its rider, who she's attracted to. Alara is a lesbian, by the way. She's like, wow, that girl is so pretty. And then she's like, what is your dragon doing here? And then the dragon is like, that's my other dragon rider, because dragons in this world have two riders, which is super cool. And immediately Alara bonds with this dragon, and then Alara comes down with something called the Fury, which is sort of like I don't know how to describe this to you. It's like a sickness where your power, due to connection with the dragon, becomes completely out of control and you like burn up, sort of. And it eventually will cause death. Her sister Farron sees this and is able to get her out of this position where she's, in a lot of like magical danger, because she takes control of Alara's dragon. And then Farron hears a voice in her head that helps her to figure out what to do in this scenario. Because if the dragon gets hurt, like her first instinct is, all right, kill the dragon. But if the dragon gets hurt, so does her sister. So she pulls back, and a voice in her head helps her figure out what to do. And it's not any of the gods that she is familiar with. So after this, she is tasked by the queen to figure out what to do. The gods say, you need to kill your sister, basically. I'm not like outright, but you need to do something that will inevitably lead to the death of your sister, because we need to rid the world of the Fury. Other characters of note are the queen, the voice in Alara's head that helped her use this new form of magic to help take control of her sister's dragon, and that's a very important player. There's also a Langlish guy who lives on the island who's friends with Alara. He doesn't really get along with Farron at first, but he actually has lived with them a long time because 5 years ago during the war, he betrayed his nation, Langley, and his father, who is in charge of Langley, to help out Alara and Farron's island. He and Farron don't like each other, but they do band together to try to research what's happening with the Fury and save Alara. Meanwhile, Farron, the older sister who's now bonded with this dragon, has to go off back to Langley to learn about dragon riding with her dragon and her new dragon bond mate, Sydney. Farron starts to fall in love with Sydney. Alara eventually does get feelings for, what is his name? Reeve? The guy who was originally from Langley. But Alara is demisexual, so she doesn't form like attraction to somebody until she forms an emotional connection, and over the course of the book she does. Daniel Jose Older suggests making your characters' motivations, all their motivations, known to your audience very quickly. and make them care very quickly. And I think that this book very successfully does this. This is a very fast-paced book, but it uses its time very efficiently. I think in the particular case of Farron, her motivations and her drive to get things done, I understand who she is very quickly. She's the child Empyrean, is very impulsive, and then she's paired up with this guy who's very book smart, and she's not very nice, and she doesn't have the tools to actually help her sister, and this is frustrating for her, so they're sort of sniping at each other, and she's like, oh, you hate me, don't you? And I like this conversation that they had where he's like, I'm trying to help, and you're being a total dick. And I thought that that was a very human moment that they had in a very necessary moment. Again, this is a very fast-paced book, and I think that the author really nailed the beginning, the introduction, the setup of making like an introduction to our characters and their dynamics and their motivations. It's a really good setup. The second C is conflict, and Older says that this is the fundamental building block of storytelling, and as a plot girly, I agree. You have to ask yourself in the course of, creating this story, crafting this story, what are the conflicts internally of your characters, and what do they have to overcome in order to get where they need to be at the end, or how do they fail to resolve these internal conflicts and end up where they are at the end? Are they doomed to repeat the same choices because of who they are, even when they try to make different choices, that kind of thing? Our conflict for Farron is who she is in conflict with who she is told she has to be. So she's told she has to be the child Empyrean, she has to listen to the gods, she has to be this figurehead for saving her people, this champion. But who she is an impulsive person. She's headstrong, but she's very tenacious and she's very caring. She thinks that she can always bend the rules and get where she wants to be, get the solution that she thinks is the right solution for everybody, but especially the people that she cares about. She is not willing to sacrifice people for the greater good, especially her own sister. And I love this about her. For Alara, our other sister, she has this desperate need to be something, to be worthy, only to become something great and terrible. And in the process, she is leaving her sister in a position where she has to be the hero yet again, specifically for her. And Alara just wanted to be a hero of sorts for one, and now she has to be rescued. Now she's sort of made more work for her sister. Also, in gaining this dragon bond, she loses the power she did have. So she had the power to commune with her ancestors and use power from them, and that did set her apart in a way that meant a great deal to her, that she was able to use magic by communing with her ancestors. This gets cut off, and now she loses what little piece of identity she did have, and she's gone from not only being the secondary sister, but being cut off from both her actual living family and her ancestors. So she deals with a great amount of loneliness, especially because she's now in this foreign and hostile land where she feels like she cannot trust anybody, and now she's bonded to a dragon, which from her island, they don't trust dragons. In the war, they were decimated by dragons. So then we marry these internal conflicts together with the external conflicts of the tentative so-called peace between Langley and the island and these other nations, and the peace summit is rejected by a lot of the island's inhabitants. They're like, don't do this peace summit. Langley is bad. And then we also have the conflicts of the gods, not just the nations, though I hesitate to tell you much about the conflicts of the gods and the voices inside of Farron's head, because that was one of my favorite pieces of the story. But that bleeds into the third C, which is context. So context is who has the power in the world and what are the rules of the world. This is where your magic stuff is important. This is where your dragon lore is important. So there are obviously dragons. The dragon lore is not as in-depth as I would have liked here, but when I get more in depth, it leads itself open to plot holes, especially when you have dragons who can communicate and who are like all-knowing beings. It begs the question, okay, why didn't this dragon tell this person something? This is something I'm consistently complaining about in Fourth Wing. This did happen at one point. There's a guy called the Gray Saint, and I'm sitting here wondering why, if Alara's dragon knows more about the Gray Saint, why are they not being more in communication with each other? It only happened one time, which I can't divorce like the poor reading experience that is the plot hole ridden Fourth Wing from this like review. So in that, like, I can't lower my rating for this based on that, because Fourth Wing does it so much worse and so much more often. Langley is this country that has this monopoly on dragons, but the dragons themselves are not specifically loyal to the Langlish. And this is mentioned by Alara's dragon. So you're wondering like, all right, well, if they can bond with other people outside of Langley, I wonder why this doesn't come up more. Why Alara is the first person to be from the island this bond is like this cosmic thing where your soul and the dragon's soul are made of the same stuff. I wonder why that hasn't happened sooner. Langley is a country that loves to do imperialism. Langley is, clearly like a little bit of a dig at the United States at least. Honestly, we could have dug harder. We could have been like, it's you're the problem. And this affects how Langley's own citizens sometimes think of it. Like in the case of Alara's friend, Reeve, is that his name, who defected? God, I'm so bad at names. As well as Alara's Dragon's co-writer, Sydney, who was also affected by Langlish imperialism. Alara and Farron's island has this young queen who again was like raised separately and did not know she was queen until Farron, called her into queendom during this revolution. And I think that is really interesting that we have this story that in general is written after the big war and after the revolution happened. Normally you get into the story in the middle of that or at the beginning of that and you see the full thing, but now we're seeing the consequences of what happens after that. Who has the power after that? And I think that makes for a really interesting story perspective and timeline. I know some readers were kind of hoping that we could have seen that instead and they want a prequel. I'm happy with where we are because it's such a different POV than we normally get. We do have a pantheon of gods, but Alara and Farron's country, they follow them. They are not the same gods that the Langlish follow, for instance. And then there's also, again, a guy named the Grey Saint who was, I don't really want to give you a lot of information. He was also a dragon rider who is not kindly thought of by history. And depending on who you ask, he was a bad person or a good person. And nobody really knows for certain what happened to him or the first dragon. I thought all of that information that was honestly my favorite part. All the stuff with the Grey Saint and the first dragon, that's my favorite part of this. And that's why I don't want to tell you because I want you to be surprised. There's also magic that, again, Alara can call upon from her ancestors, whereas her sister is channeling directly from the gods. We also have a bit of technology in here in the form of drakes, which are not dragons. They're more of like flying contraptions flown by the island's army, which is really cool. I like when we get more technology into things. Like I read The Falconer a while ago, and this is steampunk, so I don't know, take that comparison with a grain of salt. Winterkeep. Winterkeep has like technology in it, like hot air balloon type things, not exactly flying contraptions that are hot air balloonish. I like that kind of thing. And there's also a magically powered communication device that Farron and Alara used to contact each other that Alara can't use anymore because she can't magically connect to it because she's cut off from her ancestors. But I forgot how most of this works because I didn't feel like they were super well described, or maybe that's just user error and I had a hard time understanding them, but I didn't take away that much information from the reading experience about these things to like fully understand them. And this actually leads into the fourth C, which is craft. Older says that the fourth C is sort of what like holds all the other pieces together. I think that this was a solidly crafted debut. I think that the writing works. It wasn't as immersive as I prefer, like engaging all of my senses, but that's a pretty minimal complaint. Because I still found the book very enjoyable. I gave it 4 stars. Even though I don't fully understand the magic, I did have a great understanding of our characters. This is a very well done exploration of the individual sisters, I think. The character work is really what shines here. I think that this is an exemplary book that really showcases sisterhood and the bond between sisters, and each sister being like an individual with their own voice and their own motivations and their own experiences, and living in the shadow of your sister and what we're willing to sacrifice for our sisters. I think this is a book especially so that showcases that young adult books are not shallow, or at least that is not something that they have to be. They can do just as incredible character work as adult books can do. I hate when people ask, like I'll review a young adult book and people will be like, well, what did you expect? It's a YA book. Why are you an adult reading a YA book and expecting so much out of it? It's like a young adult book is not less good at character work just by sheer existence of being a young adult book. This kind of exploration of character is what I expect. This is the standard for me. And I also have read adult books who do terrible character work that's not That's not like an age range convention. That entirely depends on who's writing it and their ability to craft a well done story that is centered on its characters. I also thought it was a really smart choice, again, to set this after the events of the war, because I think this author did such a wonderful job of having that conversation of what happens after the war, how it never really leaves people. Just because the war is won does not mean that everybody has won the war, that everybody is a winner of that war. So much is lost in war. In gaining freedom for a whole country, so much on an individual level is lost and painful. And I thought that that was such an important theme that was explored so beautifully here. I gave it 4 stars. I hope you will read it. I'm not going to tell you anymore. I don't want to spoil it for you, but this has one of my favorite things in it, which is something that we see in Furyborn, which is a voice in our main character's head where you don't know if they can be trusted, and they are leading you down a path where they are sort of trying to appeal to like a specific thing about you, and trying to get you in a position where they will convince you to do something that maybe you shouldn't be doing. I saw some parallels between Riel in Furyborn and Farron in So Let Them Burn, and that is part of why I really enjoyed this book. And that's also dual POV, so if you like So Let Them Burn, you should try Furyborn, or vice versa. Furyborn is not about sisters, but it is, they are connected POVs, but they are 1,000 years apart. Highly enjoyable dragon riding book. I do recommend this. I definitely recommend it over Fourth Wing. I think that it does its themes of imperialism and war and sisterhood so much better. And also the queer rep in here is clearly written by somebody who either is queer or has talked to queer people, whereas Fourth Wing, it's just like, look, there's that non-binary character over there, hey again, and that's it. Like, this is what I expect out of a book with queer rep in it. Let me know if you've read this, since this is one of our dragon book reviews. Leave a dragon emoji down below if you made it this far. Comments and questions down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Hi! Before I go, I have to say a very special thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Animations, Ashley H., Astra, Call Me Kodiak, Choco's Homesick for Taiwan, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Eric, Jade, John E, K, Kaleno K, Katie Ann, Kelly K, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lady Chips, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Lily, Luna Moth, Mata Raptor, Max B, Megwin Rose, Melissa, Mindy, Mixer Boneless, Peggy, Rain, Reese, SJ, Samar, Scarlet, Spoopy, Steph B, Super SMA Girl Lily, 3 Raccoons in a Trench Coat, Tori, Urchin Audrey, White Raven 13, and Zorvictia. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend. And last but not least, I have to say thank you to my Potato Starch Marxists, and those are Adrienne, Aaron, Alejandra, Alicia is Herbie Derby Dunn, Althea, Amanda D, Angelica, Artie the Ninth, Ava, Barty the Witch, Beck, Bookish by Jenna, Bookish Rabbit, Bree, Bridget, Kate B, Caitlin, Carlin, Carly, Casper, Kate W, Kathy, Celeste, Claire Online, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic Frog, Courtney, Darius, Danielle, Danita, Darren, Desiree Michelle, Dilf Enthusiast, Dorothea, supports public education, hell yeah, Draco-chan, Drive-By Thinker, Ebby, Emily A, Emma, Aaron with 2 E's, Erica May, Aaron Starlight, Fiona, Gadarn, Hannah C, Helen P, Hreesing, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jen Michelle, Genderqueer, Jenny G, Jessie Ives, Jessa Sue, Jill, Jojo Bookish, Juicy Wizard, Caitlin M, Catherine M, Katie L, Katrina, Kaylee C, Kayala, Kendra, KMTB, Kayana, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura is Angry, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Lindsay M, Lisa, LP, Lou Siri, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Maddie, Madison, Man Eating Plant, Mary, Megan, Malara, May, Mima Who, Morgan, Myth Lesbian, Never, Nicole G, Oxford Comma Supporter, hell yeah, Paige P, Paul, Penelope, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Pick a God and Pray, Plague Carrier, Pondemonium, Queen Cereal, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca R, Rhea, Ronnie, Rosie Thorns, Sikoria, Sadie, Saintbringer, Sakia Lume, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Shamed, Shannon, Sheen Onion, Sean, Sophie, Stardust, T. Delegati, Talia, that one cute chick, this is not a trap, Tiana, too thick to work today, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, Unicorn Jenny, Wobbs, and Zayden's award-winning eggplant. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend, especially to the eggplant.